And I just stumble at how can I think it evil to serve a good God? How can I think it is wicked to serve a God who's done so much for me? How can you think it's evil to serve a God that delivered you from the house of bondage? How can you think it's evil for God to cross you over the Red Sea, cross you over Jordan, turn bitter water into sweet water, fight your battles for you, lead you with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night? Maybe I need to raise a question with you. If you think it's evil to serve God that watched over you all night long, kept hurt and harm and danger away from you, and then touched you early in the morning and wakened you to a dawn of a brand new day, if that doesn't seem like a good thing to you, then you're going to have to make up your mind which God you will serve. I'll not keep you long, but I've got three things I want to talk about this man Joshua as head of his house. You do know that when you want to get something straightened out, you got to start at the head. No need in trying to fix up every other thing and the head is not right. Because if you want the body to line up, you've got to get the head straight. And if you want the house to be organized, disciplined, and obedient to the Lord, you're going to have to start with the head of the house. Listen, I want to say, number one, Joshua's personal record for headship. Who is this man that says, for me and my house? Where does he get the gumption to talk about for me and my house? Who is this man Joshua? Joshua, son of Nun. Not much is given about who he is in that reference, but we've learned from the Bible he must have been born in Egypt under Pharaoh during the time of bondage. He came from a hard situation. And because of the time of his birth, he was not born as a free man. He was born as a slave. His first name was Oshea. And it was Moses that later on gave him the name Joshua. The word Oshea means salvation. The shortened form of Jehovah, J, put with Jehoshea means Joshua. And it means the name now, the Lord saves, or God is salvation. You know, Moses chose Joshua to be the first general over the army. He chose him to fight first against Amalek. Joshua shows up as one of the chosen 12 spies to go then into the land of Canaan and view it and make a report. Joshua was chosen by Moses to be an assistant unto him, and thereby he had some intimate experiences that few others could know. I'm talking about the head of the house. I'm talking about he came from somewhere, and he knew it was nobody but God that had brought him and raised him up. Look at his experience. He went part of the way with Moses into the mount when Moses spent 40 days communing with the Lord. The record said on another occasion, Joshua remained at the tabernacle in the presence of the Lord when Moses went to commune with God. Joshua was a man of great faith and loyalty to God. He was a man that could be trusted. He was a man of great integrity. Joshua was then divinely appointed to succeed Moses at his death. And you see, if you're going to be a great leader, you've got to first be a great follower. If you're going to be a great general, you've got to first be a soldier who knows how to carry out orders. Moses had led the people out of Egypt, and Joshua would lead the people into Canaan, the promised land. I dare you to check the record of this head of household. Joshua had no moral failures. No stains or blemishes are recorded against this man Joshua. No scandal is attached to his name. He had no episodes of cowardice to blemish his fighting record. That's why Joshua says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I'm just trying to tell you, Joshua was more than a pair of pants. Joshua was more than somebody with male organs. He was a believer in the Lord, and he fulfilled his qualifications to be head of the house. Joshua was privileged in his right of headship. I raise the question of how could he say, but for me and for my house? You see, Joshua was right in what he said, and he had a right to speak in such bold manner. Joshua was not out of order to talk like that. He didn't go home and check it out with his wife. He didn't ask for a family vote. He didn't take a survey. He didn't study this thing for what was popular opinion. But he told them, but for me and for my house, we will serve the Lord. He had a right to talk like that. There's much talk in our world today about rights. Yes, and even that piece of paper of American history recognizes the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Recently, in few years, we've heard them talk about civil rights, human rights, spousal rights. As the oldest living male of his house and family, Joshua had the right to the headship of the household. He had a right because of his possession and his ownership. The term privilege means that it is a right that has been conveyed by God and not by man's earning or merit. It is a position that has been designated by God, who told the man he could be head of the house. Well, from the very beginning, headship of the household and the family has been appointed and ordained to the man. Yes, although appointed and ordained to the man, he can only work effectively if he's a man of respect. Listen, my brothers, if you move in on what she has, if you move in to what she has bought, if you take up residence in what she has worked for, it's going to hinder your being head of household. If you sleep in her house, if you drive her car, if you put on clothes she buys, you're going to find it hard to stand up and say, I'm the head of the house, because it costs to be the boss. You've got to learn how to be more an asset and not a liability. You see, there's a feminist philosophy that said, I can do bad all by myself. What I need a man for if I've got to take care of myself. If you want to stand up on 2 feet, you're going to have to learn how to work and earn and take care of your house. Listen, the head of the household must be a giver and not a taker. Yes, he must have some character about him if he's going to be the head of the house. He's going to have to be a man of vision, a man of wisdom, a man of compassion, a man who makes sacrifice, a man who's selfless, a man who's faithful. Well, I've got one more thing I want to tell you before I take my seat. Yes, he had a right to say what he said. It was ordained by God. But what is the responsibility of headship? What is his job description? Who's in charge at the house? This is the question that must be raised in our modern families.